How are we feeling about SQL? Feeling like we're ready to see it in practice? We feeling like we just need more time with the syntax?
I feel like it's just one of those things that like I'm ready to just see how to do it. But I like it. I'm starting to feel like React made me start feeling like I felt with HTML and CSS. It
Good,
was just vanilla JavaScript that had me and I'm starting to feel good again.
good, good. Today is the first day that we actually get into backend programming. So we're going to set up our first node server. We're going to see how the other side of Postman, basically, we're going to see how we can set up our own API calls and get routes working. We're going to connect to Postgres from our node server, from our Express server, and we're going to kind of see how it all fits together. So I'm doing this in a different order than I do it in previous cohorts. In previous cohorts, we did a whole section on database design, which is still important, but we've gotten feedback of like, I just got a taste of that, but I don't really understand it enough to do it. So we're going to actually push that off a little bit. We're going to see how we can work on our node code, our APIs. We're going to get that working. I am actually going to take the homework down on Canvas. We will save that ERD for next week. And then we will go from there. But this is definitely one of my favorite classes out of all 90-ish of them. This is the one where like the last pieces come together and you understand kind of like, all right, I see the back end and I know my front end and my capstone is kind of on hold because I need a place to send that data and save that data. Tonight's the first night where we kind of see that come together. So anyway, we are going to go ahead and dive on in here. This is one of those classes where you can get lost at any of the steps. So if you feel lost, if you feel like you just need a timeout, like let me know, that's okay. We can take a breather at any step here, but we're gonna go step by step and get our backend set up for the first time. All right, with all of that said, we are going to go ahead and dive in. I am headed to my code folder. I am going to go to, what week are we in? 17, new folder for 17. New folder for day 3. I'm going to grab my day 3 and throw that in my VS Code. And these are the steps to get our backend set up for the first time, our backend server. So we're going to go down, we're going to right click, open in integrated terminal. And we're going to run a new command that we haven't run yet, or kind of a new command. We've seen npm before, and we've npm installed different things, but this is a project we are starting from scratch, right? We don't have any React code that's firing through all of this yet. So what instead we are going to do is do an npm init. INIT stands for initialize, and we're going to type -y. npm space init space -y and hit enter on that. And that is going to create a file called package.json. Now we've seen our package.json before. We've seen this in our React files, and that has gotten, that allows us to basically install different things. From there, we're going to make a new file, and we are going to call it server.js. Now, there are a couple things that we need. We are learning how to use a framework called Express. Express is a framework to Node, just like Bootstrap is a framework to CSS. Shannon, in the terminal, open a new terminal, and then it is the npm init -y command. Hit enter on that, and that will generate and make your package.json file for you. So Express is a framework, just like Bootstrap is a framework that allows us, and React is the framework for JavaScript, that allows us to make API servers a little bit easier. So anything you can accomplish in Express, you can accomplish in anything that you can accomplish in Express, you can do in vanilla Node. But Express is one of the top 10 most widely used NPM packages, just because it makes it much easier to get a API server up and running. Server.js we just created as a blank file. Nothing's in it yet. Okay, in order to use Express, we need to install Express. So we're going to npm install Express.
Max,
Yes.
sorry, I had to install a new version of Visual Code. Can you start over with the
Open an integrated terminal.
yeah, it's telling me, oh my ZSH, would you like to update?
Just hit Y on that and enter.
Okay, and then what were you doing in the terminal when you started?
npm init -y with spaces between. Well, spaces between npm init and -y.
And that was it?
And then we made server.js, which is a blank file. And then back down in the terminal, we npm install Express. Now we get to use Express. So we are going to say const express equals require express. Now, there are two kinds of import-export syntaxes. There is something called the ES5 modules, which use that import-export syntax that we are used to using. Then there is the older, it's called the common JS system that uses require and module.exports. Node is currently in the transition period of moving from the common JS, which is the require syntax, over to the ES modules, which is the import syntax. We're going to learn down the road how both of those work and get a little bit more practice with them. But for now, think about require as an import. Live share is now in the chat. Now that we've got Express imported, we have to make an app or a server out of it. So we are going to say, hey, our server is going to come from an instance of Express. Basically, go to Express and call this function and store that in the server. Now that we've got our server, we can set up routes, and all of APIs, all of Express is built around routes. So just like we have routes in the front end, right, where React is taking us to different components, we also have routes, or what are called endpoints, in the back end. So we're going to say server.get. Now we've seen HTTP methods before: get, post, put, delete, patch. All of those, we have access to them here. And there are two things that every route needs. One, it needs to know the URL or the path of the route. So we're just going to do an empty slash, just like an empty slash is our homepage. We're going to do an empty slash as our default route. And then there are two things that we get. The request is going to come in from the backend. That's going to be our fetch. That's going to be our postman. That's going to be whatever. And our API server is going to get the request, do stuff, and then send back a response to that request. We can get information out of the request coming in, and then we are going to send back something in the response. So because data is coming in the request and going to get sent back as the response, we're going to say rec and res. Rec for a request, res for our response. And right now, we're not going to do anything with the request data. We're just going to kind of leave that as is, but we are going to res.send back hello world. Then, once we have all of that set up, we can actually test it. We're going to go down to the server or down to the terminal, and we're going to type in node server.js. Go ahead and hit enter on that, and nothing happens. Well, that's kind of annoying. I was expecting something more fun. What ends up happening, and the server's like, all right, NPM, I'm going to go get Express. I'm going to go set up your server using Express. I'm going to go wait for any requests to come into our URL. And then I'm just going to stop and I'm not going to do anything. And it's like, well, that's not right. We need one final thing here. We need the ability to tell our server, hey, go listen for incoming requests. So we say server.listen. And then we have to specify a port for it to listen on. So we are going to say 3001. Why? Because our React runs on 3000. We don't want to get in the way of that. Now, if you have anything else running on 3000, it is going to cause, or 3001, excuse me, it is going to cause problems. So make sure you don't have anything else running in that. While React is very good at moving you to another port, Express is not. And then the last thing that we're going to do is put in a little function here. And this function only runs if the server fires up successfully and is actually listening for requests. So we're going to throw a console log in here that says server is running on port 3001. If we get this in our console, that means everything is working. If we don't get that in our console, we probably have an error somewhere else in the entirety of the code that we need to fix. Now we can actually fire this up. So I am going to, sorry, I'm trying to sign in to get a file here. We are going to go to our server. We're going to do our node server.js again and hit enter. And we should have server is running on port 3001. Did anyone not get server running port 3001? Okay, let's prove it. I'm going to, oh, yep. Are you talking to us, Shikbroda? You're on mute.
Sorry. I had a whole conversation. So after we put the console log server is running on port, that we go back and put node server.js again, right?
Yep, and hit enter, and then you should see servers running on 3001. Good, cool. Jen, what's up?
I broke it again.
Okay.
I'm getting
sure
a
thing.
reference error required is not defined.
Interesting.
Oh yeah, see, always breaking stuff.
Required is not defined, but require is.
Ah, okay.
There you go.
Yay, thank you.
All right, let's test it out. Anyone else need help? Okay, so we go over to our browser. We're going to type in localhost 3001 and hit enter. And we should get our hello world. Okay, pretty cool. What else do we know? Well, we can also do a server.post. and we'll post that to, I don't know, animals. Why I picked animals, but we're gonna go with animals. Now, we're still gonna get our rec and our res. And we are going to res.send back. Let's send back our animals as an empty array. So I save that, come back over to the browser, and I'm like, if I go to my animals, I cannot get my animals. Why can I not get my animals? Because I did a post. So what do we do to test our post? Send info to it. How? Need Postman for this. Yeah, you got it, Kenny. We're going to pop open Postman. If you have anything open in your Postman that you haven't seen in a very long time, you can actually go ahead and close out of all of those tabs up at the top, either with Command W or the little X up at the top. I'm going to open a new tab, so I'm in a clean environment. Kenny, we could have used a curl statement as well, but I like Postman a whole heck of a lot more than curl, just because it's a little bit easier to write that syntax. But a curl request would have worked, and technically a fetch would have worked as well, and we're going to see that coming down the road. So I go into my post. I'm going to do my HTTP to localhost 3001, and I'm going to include my animals in the URL. And then I am going to go ahead and hit the send button. And I'm going to get a depressing error message because that should have worked. Error cannot post to animals. Why not? Ah, I know why. So I'm in here and I'm like, well, that isn't working. So let me try something else. Let's open a new tab, go to our local host, 3001, and just do our get. And I get my hello world, and that's working. I'm like, okay, let's go back here and add an exclamation mark at the end of world. So I save that file. I come back over here, I hit send, and I don't get my exclamation mark. Now that's telling me, all right, I'm debugging here a little bit. This isn't working. Let's try to go back down to our terminal, hit Control-C to stop it. Make sure it has stopped it. Make sure that you've got a new prompt where you can enter in stuff. And then up arrow to autofill in that last command that we ran and enter. Now our server is running on port 3001 again. I come back over, I hit send. I get my hello world with my exclamation point. That's a good sign. Now let's go back over to our post and hit send. And now I get my animals. Well, that seems really annoying. Every single time that I change my node file over here, my server file, my express file, I'm going to have to reboot it manually. That seems like a giant pain in the butt. We can avoid having to do that by using a command called node-mon. In order to use node-mon, mon is not just like a Jamaican Rastafarian kind of thing. Node-mon is short for node and monitor. Node-mon is going to monitor our node code, and whenever it changes, it's going to automatically restart it. So what we are going to do, Shannon?
I cannot get the exclamation point to show up in Hello World.
Okay.
where it
Click in the terminal, Control-C to stop, up
Mhm.
enter to restart, then go back into Postman and make sure you hit send again.
What did you say? What did you say after Control-C?
Control-C, up arrow to refill the last command and enter to run it.
Yep.
And then in Postman, hit the send button.
Okay, thank you.
Jen.
I'm a whole mess here.
Okay.
I can't even get my local host running. I can't.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay, you are using NPM start, but we never told you to use NPM start.
No, yeah, I couldn't
Not
get in
yet.
a local host, so I thought that's maybe what I was supposed to have done. Maybe I missed it.
Whoa. Oh, okay. I was like, how did you get to? Okay. Control C to stop everything here.
Yeah.
Node server.js to get it running again. Then we're going to go to local host 3001 in your browser. And that gives you your hello world.
It was giving me a freaking Google search. Like it
Make
wouldn't.
sure that you got localhost, you got nothing.com or
Oh,
anything, and then
that's
the
what I did.
colon 3001.
I was doing a period instead of a colon.
Then in Postman, we can test both of them. We can open a new tab and go localhost 3001, and we get, nope, 3001, and we get our hello world. And then we can also do a post to our animals. And now we get our animals with an empty array.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so we use a different command instead of saying node server.js, which is fine for getting it running up and once. When we're in local development, we want that to automatically refresh. We want something to monitor our node code and automatically restart it. So to do that, we say npx, our good old friend npx, x for execute, nodemon server.js. And it says need to install the following packages, nodemon. Proceed, Y, enter. And now we get all of this text in here that says it's watching and starting node server.js. And then it says server is running on port 3001. Okay, this is kind of cool though, because now I can say Max is here and save. And notice what happened as soon as I save that file in the terminal. It says restarting due to changes, starting node server.js, and then the server is running on 3001. Nodemon automatically stopped my old one, rebooted the server for me, and is now ready to go based off of my changes. So to prove this worked, I'm going to go back to my Postman on my get and hit send, and I get my Maxes here. Shaquota, what's up?
Giving me an error, and then when I just tried the npx nodemon server.js, it's not doing anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Control C, remember, Control C to stop your terminal from running before you run a new command. Because that command, that node server.js is still running in the background. And because of that, it can't take new requests in. So Control C in your, make sure you're clicked into your terminal, then Control C, then do a new command and enter.
Okay.
With that said, go ahead and share your screen and we can take a look. Maybe you have a syntax error on your animals.
Okay.
Max,
Yes.
mine asked me to update when I did the NPX and I said yes. Is that okay?
Yes, that's fine. Okay, everything looks right here. Can I see your code? You've got a server.get animals. We don't want to get the animals. We want to post the animals.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
Yep. And then if you hit send again in there, you will get your animals back.
Thank you.
Anyone else need help? I am pleased to report, by the way, that my air conditioners have not taken over my home. They are back in working order. Just a temporary glitch in the artificial intelligence. We're back in business. Taylor, what's up?
Okay, so I got the exclamation mark to work. I got my animals post, working in Postman. What was the next step immediately after that?
npx control C in your server, then npx space nodemon space server.js.
I did npm npx node mod space server.js. Cool, we're good. Thank you.
Yep. And now if you make a change and hit save, you'll see that the server automatically restarts, and then you can hit send in nodemon and see the in postman and see their changes. Anyone else? Okay. So 3 ways of sending in information to our server. Let's say that we want to actually keep track of our animals, right? So one thing we can do is we can send in our query parameter. So I'm going to put a question mark at the end, and I'm going to say an animal is equal to a dog. Now, in order to get access to, oh, thank you, Jen. I'm going to add a question mark right here. Then I'm going to say animal equals dog, because our query parameters, anything that comes in that question mark is going to have a key. We're going to call that animal. And then the value of that key, we're going to call dog. So I come back over here, and my res is my response. That's what I'm sending back to the server. But my request is what is coming in from Postman, or coming in from whatever is asking information from my backend. So what I am going to do is I'm going to say console.log my rec.query. So I save that. I come over here, I hit send. Nothing has changed here. That's okay. What I should, however, see is I now have an object in my terminal console. We now have 2 different consoles that we're working with. We're going to have our console over in the browser, but we also have the console that our server is running. So our server's console is going to come out in the terminal where we started that server. So I should see my animal dog. Okay, kind of cool. Why don't I change this up a little bit? I'm going to say outside of my server.post, let animals equal an empty array. And every time a post request comes into my animals, I am going to animals.push my rec.query.animal. Why is it singular? Because it's singular right here. I'm matching up with this animal right here, and I'm pulling that information out, and then I'm going to send back to the front end all of my animals. All right, let's see if it works. I come over. I'm gonna, come on, Postman. You're not gonna play cool and resize. All right, fine, whatever. I'm gonna hit send, and I should get my animal dog, my animal's dog. And then I can go up here and change my dog to a cat and hit send and get my cat. Does anyone not have their animals working? What do you mean by linked, Jen?
I don't know. That's why there's a question mark there.
So we basically told our Express server to expect a post request coming to the animal's URL or endpoint. We call this an endpoint because your front end is sending information to the back end and it's hitting a particular endpoint or URL. So we are then taking that request that is getting sent in, using the query parameters, which happen to be the question mark here. So Express knows how to read those parameters because of that question mark, get that animal and push it into an array. So this is just JavaScript, right? The syntax or the might look a little different, but for the most part, it's like, all right, array, square braces, pushes to add it into the array. And then what we are sending back in the response to the request is our array of animals. So we are making a request in the front end. The front end that is Postman is using the port that we're listening on. It is using the endpoint or the URL of animals. It is sending in a get parameter with the key of animal and the value of cat. Then we are listening for, on the server on 3001, we are getting the post request in for the animals. That request is stored in here. Then we use that request and the query parameters in the request to get out the animal. We store that in our array of animals, and then we send back in the response all of the animals, which we now see over in our front end. Good so far? That helped, Jen? Cool. Amberlynn.
I'm not getting my animals to show up.
Go ahead, share screen. Yeah, I lull you into a false sense of security with SQL, and you're like, this isn't so bad, and then bam, full stack, baby. Okay. Rec query, animals push, send back your animals. Okay, I don't see, oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong. You were on the right. Okay, we aren't pushing our animals to our res. We're pushing our animals to the animals array that we created on line 9. So on 12, change res
Okay.
to animals. And now give it a try in Postman. There you go.
Okay. Alrighty. And it's not, is it okay that's not showing up in the browser? Is that okay?
Yes, because we're making a post request. So we can't make a post in the browser without using fetch and writing some JavaScript.
Okay.
Blash, did you have a question or change your mind?
I did. On your line 13, like where are we using the key animals? Like, is it the one that's being called out in the query?
Yes.
Okay.
This animal here lines up with this animal right here.
Okay. And the animals word in the link is actually coming in. Okay. There.
This animals lines up with this animals.
Right.
And then this animals lines up with this animals. And this animals lines up with this animals.
Gotcha. Okay, understood.
Jen, there was a change to the Zoom settings in some update that wiped out all of my settings, and it was annoying as all get out. So if you go to, I can't do it because, oh, maybe I can do it. If you go click into the Zoom window, then up at the top, go to zoom.us and down to preferences. Then in share screen, there's one that says full screen mode, change that back to maintain current size, and that should fix it. I absolutely hate that setting in Zoom. Plush.
Since we're sort of like on a tangent right now, like,
Yeah.
can we get a chance to see like how to deploy our React portfolios to GitHub if that hasn't happened already?
That will be coming in 2.5 weeks when Nate comes back.
Gotcha. Because I tried this tutorial online and it didn't really work. It said it gave me like response errors back.
Yeah, he's going to teach you, I think, how to deploy it to GitHub Pages. But if you would like, you can schedule an hour one-on-one with me and I can go through that with you.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay. Oh, my hour I took off. So just book 2 25 minutes back to back. Cool. Anyone else need help? Jen, did you get that in Zoom?
Yeah, it's already on there, the maintain current, but every time someone shares their screen, it pops it back down really little and then I gotta,
Odd.
yeah,
Uh,
it's just being a jerk. Maybe I gotta restart it or something. I'll figure it out. Thank you.
The other thing I would say is check to see if there are any updates in Zoom and then do a reboot during the break after you install the updates.
Okay.
Okay. So we're keeping track of our animals here. Now we've seen the query parameters. We can also use path parameters. And we saw path parameters in React as well. So what we did in React was we did something like :ID. That colon is saying, hey, we're not actually looking for the letters ID. We're going to send in some value there. But we're not going to call it ID because we're not working with the database. Not quite yet. But what we are going to do is say we could call this something like animal name. We're still going to have our rec and our res. I am going to animals.push. And instead of rec.query, I'm going to use rec.params. And then I am going to get my name from the name of that URL. And finally, I'm going to res.send back my animals. I save. I come back over. I'm going to open this in a new tab. And I am going to say animals/dog. And I hit send. And I get a cannot get because I have to change it to a post. So I go post. I change my URL to be a slash and the pet's name. I hit send. And I get my animals dog. I can also come up here and change it to cat and hit send. And I am good to go there. Now, there's one other way that we need to be able to send data into the server. But before we do that, let's just come in here and let's add a comment. And I'm going to say, these are my path params. I'm going to go ahead and hit save on that. And you'll notice the server reboots over here. And I'm thinking I'm all good to go. And I come over here and I add in one more animal. And I hit send. And my dog and my cat disappear. Like, boo, that's no fun. What's happening is every time our server reboots, it is clearing out our animals and rerunning this as if it were running from scratch. So it turns out that storing data while our server is running is a really bad idea. We can use variables to keep track of things, and while we're working on that endpoint, that's fine. But those variables are not what we call persistent. They are non-persistent variables. Whenever our server reboots, which isn't only just when we're doing local development, but what happens when this gets out on the cloud and the server needs to install updates and it has to reboot? Or what if there's a power outage when this is deployed up to the cloud? Or what if we have to redeploy our code and that's going to reboot everything? We don't want to lose all of the data that we're trying to keep track of. Whenever we need to keep track of data in our APIs, we have to use a persistent data store. That is where SQL comes in. So we're going to get to that in 1 second. Someone had a question and lowered their hand. Okay, good work, Danny. Okay. So we're going to get into the database in just a second, but we do have to tackle our last way of being able to send some data. Does anyone know which one that is? What's special about a post request? What can we do in a post that we cannot do in a get? What we can do in a post that we cannot do in a get is use the body. The body is going to allow us, if we click raw here, to send in JSON. So make sure you say raw and select JSON here. Now we can send in something like new animal. Animal is going to be I don't know, a snake. Now, this is not JavaScript. This is not a JavaScript object. This is JavaScript object notation. So because of that, we have to put this in quotes. And it would help if I could spell animal right. Animal. There we go. So make sure you've got your quotes both around the key and the value. In JSON, we need quotes around the keys, but we don't need them around Booleans or numbers. Okay, so I've got this here. Now I've got to tell my post request, heads up, there's one other way to get our server.post. We are going to send into our, let's call it animal new. And we are still going to get our rec and our res. But this time we are going to say, hey, animals.push from our rec.body.new animal. And still res.send back all my animals. We've got one problem. This body could be sent as form data. It could be sent as something called form URL encoded. It could be just plain text. It could be XML. There are all of these different ways that we can send information in that body. So when Express is getting this, it's like, I don't know how to understand what this body is. We need to basically tell it to parse out what is in the body. In order to do that, we're going to go all the way back up to our line 3, and we are going to say server.use express.json. This is a very important step. If we don't do this, the server doesn't know to parse the JSON. So whatever is going to be in that body is just going to be a string. We can't use it as an object. We can't get information out of it. It won't accept an array. It's just going to be text to Express unless we tell it, hey, when the request comes in, use this JSON parser that is built into Express. This Express right here is still coming in from our require, but we need to tell it, hey, go parse that out as JSON so that we can access it down here. Excuse me. So I say that, I come over here, I'm going to say animal/new as part of my URL. I am then going to go ahead and hit send, and I should have my snake in my array. And if I change that and add in another animal and hit send, I should also have my dog. Shaquota, what's up?
When I did that, it said that my server crashed. Maybe I put it in the wrong place. Does it have to go under the conf server?
It has to be somewhere under the con server.
Okay, never mind. I'm fine. I had it above it.
Yep. Yeah, it doesn't know what the server is until we tell it the server is coming from Express.
Okay, thank you.
All right, take a minute, pat yourself on the back. You just made your first API server. Pretty cool.
One second. So after
Yep.
we did that, we did the new animal snake and we did all that. Then we click.
Go over to Postman, change your URL to animal new. Then go to body, raw, and make sure you select JSON in this dropdown. If you don't set JSON to this, the Express server doesn't know that JSON is coming in. Then we put in our new animal and whatever animal we want there and hit send, and that should make it show up in your array.
The word new came up.
Check your post over here. Make
Alright.
sure that everything looks right here. And if it does, let me know and you can share screen.
There we go. Thank you.
Yep. Do the football thing unless anyone else has questions. Want to make sure this is working. Flush.
When you do the football thing, can you explain like on your line 25 and 20 at like why is there like only not a key value pair animals or just animals?
Yeah, so this is, I can answer that directly. This is a shorthand that is built into ES5 or ES6 JavaScript syntax. Basically, whenever you want the value of the key value pair to be the same key as a variable that you have defined elsewhere, you don't need to repeat it with a colon. So this syntax that I'm using here is shorthand for this syntax up here. When the key and the value are the exact same name, you don't have to put the colon value. If you don't put the colon value, it will assume that the value for that key is the same variable that you're trying to use. So this and this are the exact same thing, just a little shorthand.
Thank you.
Okay. Don't follow me on this. I'm going to just rearrange some of this code so that I can have it all on the screen at the same time. I'm going to put it back. Your code is perfectly fine. I'm just moving it so I can get everything on the screen all at once. Okay, so what we're going to do is we start out with our require express. Require means it's like an import. It's coming in from NPM. We will learn how to use import down the road, but require right now is the way to pull NPM packages into Node. They're in the process of changing that over to imports. We get our express. We use our express to make a new server. Now, express, we need to tell it, hey, you should use JSON. when information comes in via the body of the request, we need to parse that JSON out so that we can access it as an object. Then we tell the server, hey, you're going to get a post request. That post request is going to come into an endpoint URL called animal new. That animal new lines up with whatever our request is here. And this post portion is going to line up with our method type that we are making the request from. That request or any of that incoming information is going to get stored in our rec, in our request. And what we're going to do is respond to that request. Now, whenever that request comes in, we are going to get new animal out from the body. Where's the body coming from? It's coming from our request. Our request is right up here. That request is going to contain all of the information over here. So we are taking our new animal that's getting sent in from the request right here and pushing it into our array called animals. Then we are going to take our animals that we just pushed into and send back in the response right here. So we take our animals and we send that back to where the request came from, and we see that data down in the response. Finally, we need to tell our server, hey, listen for these requests, because the server is not going to know to run in the background. So we tell it, hey, port 3001 is what you should be running on. That lines up with our 3001 over here. And finally, we console log out our server is running. So when our reboot happens in the terminal, if we don't get this server is running down in the terminal, we know something is wrong somewhere up in our server code and can go fix it. Helpful? Brandy, what's up?
I don't know.
Share screen,
It's-
take a look.
Well, okay. What do you want to see? Well,
Your code first.
yeah. This one's mine. Left
Okay.
side is mine. I don't know why this is gray.
That's gray because we didn't use our request anywhere. So you notice here we use request here and here.
Yeah.
Here we use it here and here. This one, we didn't actually use the request, and that's okay. So it being grayed out
Okay.
is fine. We don't always use the data in the request. What we do need to always do is send back a response. So I don't see anything wrong here. So do you want to show me what's going on in your Postman?
Sure.
Okay. Cannot post animal new. Let me request remote request. We're gonna just try and send. Hold on, let me pull that back out because they bury that send button, which is dumb. It's not responsive. Okay, so that might be. Can you? Oh, sorry. Can you switch me back to your code? Here we go. We are going to.
That's yours.
Anna, hold on. You are animal. Missing your opening slash there. Try that in Postman and see if that fixes it. Just hit the send button again. Nope. One more other thing that we got to do. Sorry. Back to your code. You are still running your server with node server.js, And that does not automatically reboot your server whenever we make changes up here. So what we do instead is we run npx node mon, mon for monitor, and then our server.js. And now whenever we do something like just add in a new word, you'll see it automatically reboots the server for you. So all of your code was right, except that missing slash. We just had to get our terminal set up to reboot whenever we made changes to it. So now go test in Postman and see if it works.
Am I good now? Is that right?
Yep, you're good to go.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Any other questions? This is where we get to the phrase that I tell all of my students: we celebrate different errors, right? Because once we get a different error message, it means we resolve the error message before it. So there are some days where it just feels like it's one error message after the other, but then all of a sudden the error messages all stop and it just starts working. That's okay. Some days are like that. All right, so what have we seen so far? We have started on our full stack journey. We've got the client, right, which is our laptop or Postman or our fetch code or whatever it is. And then we've got our server Express. So far, we've seen 1 and 4. I'm not sharing my screen. So far, we have seen 1 and 4. 1 is making the request, and 4 is seeing the response come back to that request. What we are going to add in right now is our database. We've got Postgres from yesterday. What we are going to do is make a request to our server, have our server take care of that information in the database, whether it's inserting it or updating it or deleting it or reading it or whatever it is. Then that data is going to flow back from the database to our API server. And our API server is then going to send back that in the response to Postman. We ready? Try to contain your excitement. Let's get Postgres working. So first things first, we need to get Postgres running. So I am going to command space and I am going to open Postgres. If you hit enter on that, saw that quickly. Notice my Postgres version is a little bit older than yours. That's okay. If you have a start button that is not grayed out, go ahead and hit start. If you have a stop button instead and a green check mark that says running, your database server is running in the background. That's all that we need right now. Sometimes when we start our full stack, we forget to start our database. So we've got our server up and running, we get our front end up and running, but the backend API server can't connect to Postgres unless Postgres is working as well. So we also have to start our Postgres, make sure that is up and running. Because it is, I can go ahead and close out of that, and I'm going to switch over to Beekeeper. In Beekeeper, I've got my local database. I'm going to go ahead and connect to that. Then I'm going to change my dropdown to my playground from yesterday. And all these Pokemon are just sitting here and it's so tempting. So I'm going to go use my Pokemon. This is the data that I want to show up in my browser. In order to do that, we need to connect to Postgres from our server. So we're going to come over here. I'm going to go back to my terminal. And
Okay.
I'm gonna hit Control C to stop it. Now, because I have stopped it, whatever I do in Postman is not gonna work. It's gonna give me a could not send request. That's okay. Whenever we install a new package, we have to Control C to stop. Then we're gonna come back over to our terminal and we're going to npm install PG for Postgres. Jen, what's up?
I got stuck on Beekeeper.
Oh, share screen. Okay, you can save your connection from yesterday, which isn't a big deal.
I
You
didn't
can
have one.
get it set up there. We're just gonna do select Postgres. Localhost stays the same. This becomes the username that is in, come on, in the Postgres app. Okay, I'll just get it here. I don't know why that didn't. Ooh, bad hiss. You did not install it right.
So I installed it and then I moved it into the application folder.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna quit it. I'm gonna go to your downloads. I don't know if it'll let me do that. Let me do it from Finder. Go to your downloads, make sure Postgres is not there. It's not. So you can go applications, Postgres. Okay, and you moved like the whole freaking thing in. What we're supposed to move in is this. So if we drag and drop it in, you'll see that we get like the actual little icon. We want to install from here into applications, not the whole thing that file came with. So I'm going to eject this. And I'm going to delete this. And then I'm also going to check your Beekeeper.
I did the
You
same thing for Beekeeper. Yeah.
Yep. So we're going to quit this. We're going to
Hold on.
go to Beekeeper and drag and drop this.
Okay.
Then we're going to eject both of those. Get back here. New Finder window. Eject. Go back to your applications. Delete both of these. And now when we go to Beekeeper, open, and then we're also going to go to Postgres and open and sure, and now that's running and that's happy, so we can go back to Beekeeper.
It's down here. I'll drag it up on.
Thank you. And we can say new Postgres user. What's the chances that I spelled that right?
None.
I'm gonna let you go for it.
Well, very close though.
Oh, I tried my best.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna copy and paste that and test. All right, we're connected, so we can call this local. Hit save. Connecting here. And the only other thing that we did yesterday was we created a database called Playground. And now when we hit the little refresh icon up here, we can get access to the playground that we created. And then we also created some data from Pokemon. Raise your hand at break and I'll get that copied over for you.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Max,
Yes.
I'm in the same place that Genevieve was. I did get where I needed to save the local save connection.
Yep.
But I missed how to the next step of that.
Share screen. I think after you save it, you just double click on it to open it.
What am I sharing?
Yeah, so just double click on local under saved. over here. And then change Shannon to playground. Yeah, and now you're all caught up.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
How to start a playground again?
Yep.
That last step.
Yeah, I'm gonna go through this just in case. So Jed, never mind, don't raise your hand up, break. In Beekeeper, you are going to go to one of the query tabs, or you can hit plus and add and open a new one. And you're going to say create database playground. And then go ahead and hit the run button. Once you do that, you have to hit the little refresh icon up here at the top. Click on playground and then go down or click on whatever name is up here and select your playground. That will change your database for you. And then the last step, if you do not have Pokemon data, I have to go to Khan Academy to get it. Give me 1 second. You don't have to follow me on this. Data dig.
Max, if we did something besides Pokemon, are we fine with what we have?
I would grab the Pokemon data just so that you can follow along. I mean, we're just playing around with this. This isn't anything that you need to turn in. But if you want to just be able to follow along like letter by letter, I would just grab that. So what you're going to do is pop open the link I just put in chat, Command A to highlight it, Command C to copy it, go back over to Beekeeper, Command V to paste it, and then go ahead and hit that run button. If you already have that Pokemon data, it's going to cause an error, so that's okay. Don't follow these steps. We're only following these steps if you don't have the Pokemon table.
So do I need to do the create thing again that you did or no?
The create database we don't need to do as long as you're selected into the playground. What the copy and paste will bring over is the create table for you, and then the insert of all the different types of data.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anyone else need help?
I do. I'm lost.
Okay. Share screen. Okay, so you're already in your playground, so you don't need to create that. All you need to do is copy your Pokemon, paste them in here, and hit run. And now you've got all your Pokemon.
That's all I needed to do. Damn it.
You got to catch them all.
Haha. Thank you.
Sorry, I could not resist on that one.
So one
I
more
know.
thing. So when I did mine, I have a no results. Is that
Yep. Over on the left-hand side, you should have a new table called Pokemon. Just double click on that and all the data should be in there.
okay? Thank you.
Yep. Plush.
I have a question with the terminology. Like whenever we say server, like it all means like different in different contexts. Like here it means express. Usually I think of like a data silo or like a room full of computers and all that. So like what is server? Like how would you
So really good question. And I think context is the best way to describe it, which you brought up. A server can be a piece of hardware. A server is basically just a specialized computer that's designed to run for long periods of time, right? So hardware, CPU, RAM, all of that good stuff, right? We also think about a server as software that our hardware is running in order to be able to respond to requests. And servers can be all types of things, right? So a server can be, yes, Natasha, you're fine there. As long as you got the Pokemon data, you're good to go. If you want to join the live share, I'm going to repost that. But there are a lot of steps that it's going to take to catch up to this. It might just be better to ride it out and then just rewatch the video when it posts, because there are unfortunately way too many things to go through to even catch you up on break. Okay, so sorry, Palash, I interrupted right in the middle of my thought. The server, lots of different types of servers. So not only do we have the hardware that those servers run on, but we can have file servers, right? So like a shared drive that you may have at work, or we may have music servers that are set up to stream music that we use with Spotify and Apple Music and stuff like that. What we are learning how to build is an API server. And an API server and a web server kind of fall under that same category, being able to respond to requests on the internet, whether that's an API request or sending out some website, HTML, that kind of thing. We also have database servers. So again, another software type of server. And sometimes there are database servers hardware that is specially optimized to run a database, right? And maybe have faster memory, read-write storage, or stuff like that. But in Postgres, we are running a Postgres server. That is our port 5432. And then we can have multiple databases inside of that server. So we have our Playground one. Unfortunately, Taylor, I wish I had something prepared for all of this, but yeah, so different types of servers. It all depends on the context. We are running two different servers right now. We're running our Postgres and our Express server. In a minute, we've actually already seen a third type of server. That's our React server, right? So we've seen React on port 3000. It will take all three servers to be up and running for us to have our full stack. When Nathan comes back in a couple weeks, he's going to teach you how to deploy all three types of those servers. React doesn't actually deploy to a server. It's kind of weird. You use a server to develop in React, but then when you deploy it as static code. Anyway, technicalities. You're going to learn how to deploy all of these different servers up to AWS, which is by far the biggest cloud, and then go from there. So it's all context specific. And if you say, oh, I'm working on a server, that person could be a hardware person who's like down in the guts working with RAM. That person could be a DevOps engineer who is helping developers deploy their code that they have written. That could be a database server. That could be a API server. Lots of different types of servers. And if you think about it, it makes sense, right? What's a server at a restaurant? It's just someone who's helping you out and giving you the stuff that you asked for. Same thing goes for an API server or a database server. They all serve different purposes, but there are lots of different types of that.
Gotcha. So at its basic, like for example, for an HTML, CSS, JavaScript, simple, no database involved project, a server would be a web host or say
Yes.
GitHub, and that's
yes. Yes, until you get into something like WordPress, and then WordPress uses PHP, so you need a PHP server to serve the PHP code.
Okay.
So a server, there are also servers that are specific to languages, like Node.js is specific to JavaScript, and that has a runtime in it as well that is saying, hey, when you give me the JavaScript code, I know how to run it and output something to whatever is requesting the information.
And whenever, not right now, but whenever we have a little break, like, can you like go over like what is doing what, like what's Beekeeper doing, what's Postgres doing? I know like
it's going to become more clear as we work on it. But if you want to think about it, separate out the server and the client, and that should, and this is good for everyone to hear, separate out the server and the client. So the Postgres app, right, the little elephant that's running, this is your Postgres server. Now, we can't normally see servers. We just know that they take up a port. Sometimes when we start a server like we did in our terminal, we don't see that server running, but we know we started it in the terminal. Postgres, in particular, we can start from the terminal, but we happen to be using this Postgres app to be starting that server. So Postgres itself is a server. The node server that we just created, a server. When we npm start in our React, that's starting a server. But what is the client for React? That's our browser. That's where we go to localhost 3000 and can see that information. What's our client for Postman right now, or for our Express server? Right now, that happens to be Postman, because that's where we're sending and receiving the requests. We will be using fetch in the front end, and then React is going to be the one, the browser is going to be the one to become our client, because we're going to be making the requests from there. And then finally, Beekeeper is the client for Postgres that allows us to connect in. So we very rarely just use a server. There are some exceptions to that. Sometimes you make a server that talks to someone else's server and there's no front end for it. But for the most part, whenever we have a server, we also have a client.
Gotcha. Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Kenny said, is it worth getting a web service cert of some kind? It is not an industry standard, so it's not like, there's CompTIA for the IT world, and that's like a de facto if you're going into the world of IT and like computer administration, you absolutely have to get that certification. The same goes for project management. If you want to get into project management, there's something called the PMI, the Project Management Institute. Another de facto one, industry all agrees that's the one to get. Unfortunately, in the developer world and the DevOps world, there is no de facto, like this is the one certificate, you get it, and all employers will recognize it. So certificates are helpful. It just depends on whether or not your employer or potential employer will take notice of that certificate, or say like, oh yeah, we use AWS, so if you have an AWS cert, that is helpful. But you can definitely consider that, especially after you complete Nathan's module. If you are like, DevOps is kind of cool, I really like deploying servers and SSHing into servers and getting projects up and running and all of that, I would definitely consider either an AWS cert or a Google Cloud cert or an Azure cert. I'm actually going to reach out to a connection we made at the Erie 21 networking event to see if I can get you access to the Azure has like a whole student portal with certificates and all of that kind of stuff. So they're definitely worth considering. But I would say definitely consider like what track you want to go down after graduation, and then look at certification specifically for that. Don't just go out and like get a cert because you think it's cool. Get one because you think it will help kind of get a jump start on your career. How dare you, Palash? PHP powers all of WordPress. And WordPress is by far the dominant content management system that's used. PHP, unfortunately, has a bad reputation for being an older, less powerful language. However, it is still widely used, and I don't think it deserves the shit that it gets.
So is it like going to be like a necessary thing to like learn down the line to understand?
If you are doing custom WordPress development, then absolutely you should learn PHP. If you're going into full stack application development and you're sticking with the JavaScript stack, it is not a requirement to learn PHP, but so Python's a very popular language that people learn after graduation. Python and Django go together. Django is the full stack framework. A lot of people will go into either Java or C++ if they're looking for a job at like Lockheed Martin or working on desktop class applications. Java and C++ are popular. .NET and C++ go together. There are a ton of frameworks that are used in Java. And then PHP is a very popular one. Laravel and WordPress are the two most popular frameworks used by PHP. And PHP is still very widely used. There is some older code that is written in PHP that's kind of looked down upon. shitted on, shat on. But for the most part, PHP is a very good language and very widely used.
I don't know why I assumed that though.
It depending on who you talk to, a lot of people will crap on PHP, and then a lot of PHP developers will get very enraged by that and defend it. Like I said, I don't think it deserves the reputation it has. Okay, we got 5 minutes left. Just get connected to our database and we can go on break. So we are going to, we've got our Pokemon here. Hopefully we've got our data. So I'm just going to close some of these tabs so they're out of the way. We can double click on our Pokemon table and we can see all of our Pokemon here. Let's try and get this working. So I'm going to head back over to my server.js. And I just want to take a quick moment to say the only reason I know how to do all of this is because I read the Express documentation. So if you go to expressjs.com and click on getting started, they're going to tell you, hey, we need to run npm init. We need to run our npm install. And then if we go on to our next hello world, you can see they give us this code to get started. So I am not pulling this out of, well, I'm pulling this out of years and years of Express knowledge. But when you start a new Express project, there is nothing wrong with either going to the documentation or pulling up a previous project that you worked on. The same goes for our PG package. So if you head over to npm, you'll see that there's this install command, and then every package does documentation a little differently. They don't put their documentation in npm. You actually have to click on the link. And once you click on the link, they're going to give you this little getting started information that we're looking for. So this is what we're going to start with. We're going to say const pg equals require rpg. Then we need to connect to our Postgres. So I am going to say, oops, const client is equal to our new pg.client. Careful on your casing here. There's a lot of uppercase and lowercase. C needs to be a capital C because that is how Postgres exposes that information to us.
Max,
Yes.
you never switched it back after you moved it around to explain it.
Switched it back.
Your code.
Oh, thank you. Now it's back. Thank you for that reminder. It's like, I'm sharing the right screen. What are you talking about? And yes, Palash, this is where we get into needing like 19 different monitors because we have so many different windows open. We haven't even started the front end yet. So we're going to have a whole new front end window that we have to juggle as well. Okay, so we've got our PG client. Now we have to specify one thing. We've got a bunch of different databases inside our Postgres server. So we are going to specify the database playground. Then we have to connect to our client. This is giving it the information. This is telling it to go into that PG package, but we need to tell it to connect. Now that it has connected to the database, we can get our first data out from it. So what we're going to do is make a new server.get. We're going to get our Pokemon. Our Pokemon are going to come in as a request. And we are going to oh, no, not yet. We are going to say, hey, our DB result is going to come from our client.query. And our query is going to select star from our Pokemon. We're gonna go over on break by 5 minutes. I'll give you a longer break. We're so close to this working. We're gonna push through. Then we are going to console log out our DB result. And we don't really know what our result includes right now. So we're just gonna put in a res.send here without anything in it. It's really important that whenever we get a request in, we always res.send something back. It can be an empty response, but we have to send some response back, because otherwise our browser or our postman is going to be like, I requested something from you, yo, what's up? And if we don't send it a response, it's going to time out and cause all different kinds of issues. So we're going to go back to our postman. I'm going to open a new tab. I'm going to go back to my localhost 3001, and I'm going to go get my Pokemon. So I hit the send button here, and I get my connection refused. That is because after we npm installed our PG, we did not restart the server. So we're going to npx nodemon server.js. That gets our server back up and running. I come back over and I hit send, and I get nothing in my body. That's okay. What I'm looking for over here is what came out of my console log. What came out of my console log? Everyone's favorite API concept. We got a promise. Well, it turns out that's pretty intentional. Database queries can take a long time to run, and sometimes we want them to run asynchronously. We want to be able to run our database query in the background and then deal with it in the back and deal with it when that data comes back. In this case, though, Kenny, I'll come to you in 1 second. We're like, screw this. There's going to be some async code, and we are just going to await that coming back. I save, I come back over to my postman, I hit send, and now look at this giant thing I've got in my terminal. I've got these row counters and row as array and parsers and all of this information. But what I really care about, look at what's going on here. All my Pokemon are coming out in my terminal. What all of that data is in is something called dbResult.rows. So I go ahead and save that. I come back over to my postman, I hit send, and I get all my Pokemon. I'm going to leave this up on the screen. If you got this working, congrats, because I know that was a speed run. But make sure everything looks right. This is all the new code here. We've got our require PG, we've got our client, our connect, our new get endpoint. Our get endpoint is taking in the SQL. It is taking this query. We're waiting for the results to come back from the query. Then we take that DB result and we send it, the rows of that result, back to our response, which is coming from the request that we make over in our postman. Kenny first, and then I'll come to Jen and Janet.
I think I fixed it, but I'm send my screen.
Sure. Jen, if you crash Nodemon, it's usually a problem with your syntax and your server. So make sure that all of the code looks right there.
I think everything.
All of that looks right. So head back over to your postman and hit send on that. Okay. Let's go back to your code. You are missing the slash in front of the word Pokemon on line 13. Good work.
Thank you.
Jen,
Oh boy. Let me do thing. I forgot to. Yeah. Green thing, console log. Did that. I gotta share it. I commented out the console log and it's still.
okay, so you got, and this is why we take time to screen share for everyone. You have a module not found. And the hardest part about learning to read what we call a stack trace is getting down to like the part of the error message that matters. So module not found and cannot find module PG. This is what the error is trying to tell us. All of this is just just a goose chase to throw you off. So it's like, well, PG is right here, but just like our imports, we can't start using these things until we Control C and npm install PG. Now that we've got that installed, if we restart our npx, we're back up and running. And if we get our Pokemon, we get all of our data.
Cool beans, thank
Work.
you.
If you've got it working, go on break, be back at 7:30, and I'm gonna help you guys through as much as I can here. Sorry, no TA tonight, so say break till 7:30. Oh, and I can't even type in a time. Okay, Shannon, you're up.
I broke it.
We do that.
I don't know, and I've gone through and I was missing some like closing brackets and I did that and I'm still getting that it's app crashed waiting for file changes before starting.
Well, let's change some files.
Okay. Ta-da.
Okay, so you've got the same exact error that Jen has or had. So whenever we see cannot find module, before we start like la-di-da-di-da installing anything down here, we don't have this. This is telling us it is ready for a new command. Now that we have that, because we controlled seed, we can npm install our PG.
Can you move the, I've got the Zoom screen along the bottom, so I can't see what you're doing.
Oh, I just did this command right here.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm gonna just do our npx nodemon server.js, which you're gonna see in 1 second. Okay, that's up there. Now that that's working, switch me over to your Postman. Sorry, I was just checking your code quickly. And we're gonna go get all of our Pokemon. And there they all are.
Oh, okay. I was watching you do gems and it looked different. So, okay, thank you.
No problem. Danny, you're up.
Okay, I don't know why in Postman it's not showing my Pokemon.
Okay, share your screen.
So. Boop. So here's my code.
Okay.
Do you want to see my Postman?
Results, playground, all of that looks right. Ah, okay. We did one little sneaky thing.
Proof.
I told it, heads up, you're gonna get some async code here, and we're gonna just wait for the response. Oh, wait for the response to come back.
Oh. Look at that. All right, so you want me to just go to Postman now?
Just hit the send button in Postman and see if it works.
Okay. Yay! Thank you so much, Max.
Good work. Tara, you're up.
Okay, I think I might have I think I might have figured out what was wrong by kind of watching, but let me just try it again. Oh, no, it's still not working.
Okay, share screen. Okay. Async await Pokemon select. Quest.
I know in like the one in the earlier errors, it told me I was missing the async, so I fixed that. And then it told me I had 2 R's and I fixed that. I don't know what else.
Okay, here. It is working. You just have
Oh,
that console hiding everything.
okay.
It's like, I really don't know why it's broken. It's not broken. We just couldn't see the data coming back.
Oh, okay. All right. I just kept looking at the red in the console and I'm like, what is going on?
That was an older one. Yep.
All
So
right.
you're good to go.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
I guess the screen share amongst others does really help because it kind of pushed me through. Like I was like, oh, let me check this real quick. Let me look at
Yep.
this.
We get to the point where there's like more places for it to break. So seeing it break on someone else's is helpful to see like in the future if it breaks there on yours. So yeah, totally.
Okay, thank you.
Be getting your Pokemon showing up in your Postman. Everyone good? Okay. So, got a couple different options here. Do we want to go full stack? Do we want to, let's maybe go see this data in the front end. So let's create a new React app. So I am going to head to, I want to be careful because we don't want all of our files, our front end and our back end files in the same folder. We want to separate those out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control C in the terminal to stop my backend server. I'm then going to head to Finder, to Desktop, to my code, to my week 17, to my day 3, and I'm going to make a new folder called Backend. Then I'm going to take all of those files and move them into my backend folder. I am also going to go to my terminal in VS Code, and I'm going to npx create React app Pokemon. Nope. Pokemon. There we go. So all of the files that I had in my day 3, I have now moved into a folder called Backend. I then created a new folder called Pokemon, which I am going to pop open in my VS Code. My front end I'm going to put on my left. My back end I'm going to put over on my right. Again, all the files that were in my day 3, I moved into a new folder called Backend. Then I went to my terminal in my day 3 folder and npx create React app Pokemon. I am then going to pop open my Pokemon folder in its own VS Code over here, which I will go share the live share for. And then I also have my backend over here. So to get that back up and running, I'm going to go to my day 3. I'm going to CD into my backend. And now that I'm CD'd into that, I'm going to npx nodemon my server.js. I am also going to go over to my front end.
Wait. You're in day 3 in your back end and you're opening a new terminal in that?
Or using the one that's already open.
And then we're doing what in there?
CD backend. to make sure that you're in the backend folder, and then npx nodemon server.js.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then over in the front end, I'm in my Pokemon React folder. I'm going to right click, open an integrated terminal, and npm run start over here. And that's going to just bring up a blank React app.
We're opening backend and front end in different windows.
I like to do them in different windows. Some people prefer to keep them in the same window. I really like to keep them in separate windows, though. I think it makes it easier for me to remember what files I'm in and what syntax I should be using.
Only if I had space on my screen.
There's so many things open. All right, Max, I kind of screwed up.
Okay, share screen.
No, I opened a new, I put everything in the back end. I started a new folder called Pokemon and I don't have anything in it. How?
Nope, we don't want to create our Pokemon folder. We want to npx create React app. So share your screen and I can show it for other people in case they missed that step.
Yeah, you're going fast. I'm just gonna let you figure out what's what on that screen. You can do it.
Totally fine. Okay, we're going to delete our Pokemon.
Mhm.
We're going to go to a terminal that's fine.
Yep.
This is fine for now. We're going to go up to the day 3 folder. So we're in day 3. We're going to PWD to just make sure we're in day 3 because we don't want to be in the back end. Then we're going to npx create React app, our Pokemon.
Bing.
Now we are going to open this in its own VS Code window. Come on, you can do it.
No, I made it so it doesn't pop up on that screen because it was a pain in the ass.
Do it old school.
So Max, can I stop you for a second?
Mhm.
So I created a Pokemon thing. You saying delete that?
You don't want to make this folder manually. You want to npx create React app this.
Okay.
So you want to make sure in a terminal, make sure that you are in your day 3 and then do your npx create React app Pokemon. Then you want to open that in its own VS Code window. And once you have it in its own VS Code, open an integrated terminal and npm start.
Yeah, can I share when you get done? Because I'm totally like,
So here, give me 1 second. I'm going to post this in the move day 3 files into a new folder called backend. In terminal of day 3 folder, npx create React app Pokemon. Open Pokemon folder, VS Code, open terminal, npm start. Switch to backend terminal. cd backend. npx nodemon server.js. Okay, I just posted that in chat. Shannon, and then I'll come to you next, Shaquota, if you need help. Go ahead, Shannon.
So yeah, I don't know where I'm at. I have
Okay.
the backend done in my Finder. I don't know.
go read the chat. I'm happy to help you, but read the chat first because we want to read that and understand what those steps are, right? This is one of those moments where it's like there's so many things going on that if we're just following along, it's not going to sink in because we have to do these steps every time we create a project. So I know it's tough because this is the first time around. And I know that I went a little fast, but we want to make sure we understand what we're doing here, right? So let me recap for everyone first. What we had was the day 3 folder, but we had all of our backend stuff in there. We wanted 2 separate folders. So the first thing we did is we made a backend folder. We made this folder called backend. And then we took all of the stuff that was in our day 3 folder and we moved it into our folder called backend. Then we went over to our terminal and we made sure that we were in the day 3 folder. Once we were in the day 3 folder and made sure we aren't in the backend folder, we npx create React app Pokemon. That is what created this Pokemon folder here. We then take that and pop that open in our VS Code over here. 2 separate windows. Backend staying on the right, Pokemon's going on the left. Then we right-click, open an integrated terminal, and npm run start. That gives us the message and also gives us our React app going on over here. Then we're now done with the front end. We now have to get our back end up and running again. So I'm going back over to my back end terminal and I'm going to CD into my back end. Once I'm CD'd into there, I'm going to npx nodemon my server.js and hit enter, and that's going to get me my 3001 and everything is running. So we want to break down those steps to saying, move the backend folder over into its own area, create the React app in the terminal, open the React app and get it running in the terminal, then switch back over to our server, CD into the right spot so we're in the backend folder, and then restart the server there. With all of that said, does anyone need help with that?
So I have a question.
Yep.
So I did do the CD back and that is in the day 3 folder, right?
Yep.
And after that, then I do the npx nomen server in that same one.
Yep.
So what do I do in the Pokemon one after I open the terminal?
npm start on that one.
And that's it for that
Yep.
one? Okay, thank you.
Everyone a minute there.
We need all of these open, right? There's nothing we can close out to make this a little.
You can get rid of your Beekeeper and your Postgres window. Don't quit Postgres, but you can just close it. And your Beekeeper you can close, and you can even close your Postman.
You said we can close Postman?
Yep.
Oh, that makes it so much easier.
Max, how do you move between windows? Like when you do like the screen pulls back and all the windows, you can see them for a second and then you can pick it.
3-finger swipe up.
3-finger swipe up. Gotcha.
Max, I don't know what I did wrong.
Share screen.
I did all the things.
Oh, you have it running somewhere else accidentally. So. Okay, you've got it running. Oh, maybe, hold on. Okay, you've got 3000 running. This is. Close this. This is definitely yours, right? Backend server. Okay, it's running on 3001. This isn't an npm start. This is an npx nodemon server.js because it's the backend. And it's working here. So this is an extra one that you have open that's just confusing you. So close this. Yours front end is here, your back end is here. It's running 3000 here and 3001 here. So you're good to go.
Okay. So I did it. It was just, okay. Thank you.
Yep. Front end, back end, front end running 3000, back end running 3001. If you've made it to that point, you're all caught up. Anyone need another minute? Anyone need help?
I just got a quick question. Where do you see the port number if it doesn't automatically come up? I know there's a way to see it, to like see what port it's in.
You can't really. In our backend code, it will say it in 3001. On our React code, it's got this stupid warning here, but if you scroll all the way up to the top, it will say 3000.
Oh, but I'm looking for it in the backend one.
In the backend, it will show in the terminal after you run your npx nodemon server.js command. Should say server is running on port 3001 as long as you have a console login right here.
Yeah, so when I did the npx nodemon server.js, and then it said need to install the following packages, and then I okay to proceed, and I said yes. And then
share your screen, something's off there.
I thought I was good. All right. So, okay, so the Pokemon one is running on 3000.
Yep.
Right, and then
oh, okay, that should be all right. Let me just request. Okay, so let me just try that command again.
Well, so mine, I was a little late and I had to catch up, but I ended up like create React, and it took me to another folder, but I still follow the same path that you've said to do, which was to move the back end into the folder that we were working out of. So you guys are working out of like a day 3, but I was working within a day 3 to a day 4. I just used something. So I still moved it to back end. I mean, I still combine the folders, like you said.
Okay, there you go. You're up and running. You just had to go down into your day 4 folder.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yep. Amberlynn.
Can I please share my screen?
Go for
it. Okay. It says I got React running, but I don't know where. Like, because I only have the backend folder here.
Okay.
And then
your
I tried
screen
to.
share did not start.
Oh, it did not. Oh, crap. Sorry.
Now you know what it feels like.
So then it says that it's.
Okay, so here's what's going on. So we have to remember whenever we're in the terminal, before we run any command, we want to know where we are in the terminal. So I'm going to do a PWD here, and come on, it's going to show me that we're all the way up in your home folder. So we're in the wrong spot there. So I am going to remove that Pokemon that you created in the wrong spot accidentally. Then I am going to close out of this terminal altogether and reopen that terminal.
Okay.
Okay, now we're down in the day 3 folder. So if we PWD, we're definitely in day 3. So if I npx create React app Pokemon, now it will show up in my day 3 folder. So I'm going to open that in a new window. And while that's going, I can open an integrated terminal and eventually it's going to finish. When it does, I'm going to do my npm start here. And then over here, I'm going to do my npx nodemon server.js. Both of those will appear in a second. When this is done running, hit enter here, and then you'll be all caught up.
Thank you.
No problem.
Mm.
Anyone else need help? I promise you, it feels like it will never get natural. It feels like there are a gazillion windows. It does get natural. It does get easier. Just a little practice.
So it's gonna have 3 windows open, right? One for the live share, then one for Pokemon, other one's for the back end.
Yes.
Cool.
All right, let's connect it all together. I am headed to my front end code, my React code. I'm headed to the source folder, to my app.js, and I'm going to clear out the header. This is our safe space. We know React. This is all okay. In React, we are going to put in our use effect. And our use effect is going to do this thing called make API call, which is going to be an async function. We are then going to call our make API call. And we also have to import 2 things, our use state and our use effect. Both of those are coming in from React. Do not forget in your use effect, do not forget in your use effect to put a comma and your empty array. It will make your computer go boom if you forget this comma and this empty array. Do not make your computer explode. Make sure that you have that empty array in your use effect.
Do you have another live share or something?
I've got one live share for the front end, and then the back end live share should be the same.
Same. Okay.
Oh, the same one as the earlier live share that we had open. Although you can probably get to both the front end and the back end live share from the first live share. Okay, now that we've done this, we are going to do a fetch. Our response is going to await a fetch. And what are we fetching to? We're going to fetch to localhost 3001, and we are going to get our Pokemon. And then we are going to get the data from our response. And then we are going to console log out our data. We use await because fetch is going to return a promise. So we are saying, hey, don't run this in the background, just wait for the API call to be done. And then when it is, store it in the response. So because fetch runs asynchronously and returns a promise, we wait for that. We are supposed to get an error in the browser. Does anyone need a minute to get to this error?
I do, just like
Yep.
a couple seconds.
Okay. Now we've got this error. So I'm going to inspect, go to my console, and in my console, it says failed to fetch, and then right above it, it says access to fetch at localhost 3001. Now remember our ports here. 3001 is our backend. 3001 from origin 3000 has been blocked by the CORS policy, no access control allow origin header is present. Does anyone remember what CORS is? CORS, in a nutshell, is a pain in the ass. CORS is what is cross-origin resource sharing. Okay, what does that mean? Cross, we're going from port 3000 to 3001. Origin means it's starting at 3000. We are trying to get resources that are on 3001, and 3001 is telling us to go F off and it's not sharing. Cross-origin resource sharing, pain in the butt. What we need to do is tell our API over here, hey, cross-origin is actually allowed here. We would like you to serve up content that can be accessed on 3001 or on 3000. In order to do that, we need another NPM package. So we're going to go back to our backend terminal. We are going to Control C. Please, for the love of God, Control C. Make sure you are back to another command prompt here. Now that you've Controlled C, we are going to npm install CORS, C-O-R-S. Then, after we install, we have to remember to restart the server. So up arrow twice. Enter to start the server. Then we are going to say const CORS equals require CORS. And we are going to come down to line 7, has to be underneath this server. And we're going to tell our server to use CORS.
Yeah, big O NPM error in the terminal.
Share your screen. You tried to do your start, not npx nodemon server.js.
Oh, I npm install cores and then npm start. Oh,
Nope. npm
went up.
npx no npx nodemon server.js.
Oh.
Well, whenever we're in the backend, we're going to do our nodemon. Oh no. You weren't in your backend folder, so it didn't know where to be. So now you're good to go.
Okay, wait, did I do that in the front end one? So is that gonna mess it up?
Nope, you did it in the day 3 folder that wasn't in the front end or the back end.
What am I missing?
Nothing, you're good. You're caught up now. You're fine.
Okay.
Anyone else need help? All of this is working. We're going to come over here. We're going to refresh our front end, our 3000. And it's not going to work. And I'm going to just go cry in a corner. It's supposed to work.
I'm ready to go cry too, Max.
Give me a minute. The good news is we are 3 lines of code away from our final version that we'll be working on tonight. And that was supposed to work. Oh, Cores probably went and changed something on me. Okay, don't follow me here. I have to experiment. Cores origin. What? Oh. Okay. We confused VS Code. VS Code may have a copy of server.js inside your backend folder, and it may have one outside of your backend folder. Close out of the server.js that you have open. Only close that tab up at the top. Over on the left-hand side, delete the server.js that is not inside the backend folder. Move that to the trash. Then go to the server.js that is inside the backend folder and add in your cores and your server.use cores. Make sure that you do not have a server.js outside of your backend folder. If you do, delete it. Go inside to your backend folder, and in your server.js, add your cores and your server.use cores. If that is right, when we refresh over in our front end, we get an array of all 800 of our Pokemon. Danny, what's up?
I'm broken still and I just don't understand. So
Okay,
here we
share
go.
screen. Okay. You're good to go here. I'm gonna request remote. You've got your cores in, you've got all of this. The only thing that you're missing, you just didn't start your backend. So we're gonna npx nodemon your server.js. That's up and running. So if I go this way, nope. If I go this way,
No, it's hiding.
okay, perfect.
Why does it come? Why won't it come over? Hold on, it's just being stupid, just like I am apparently. I'm struggling right now. There it is. Holy crap.
Okay.
Here we go.
Refresh, and your Pokemon are there.
Yo.
Down
All
the bottom
right.
in your console. So you
Awesome.
did everything right. You just had to restart the server.
Oh, thank you, Max.
Brandy.
It was the same thing. I figured it out.
It's fine. It's not like there are 19 gazillion steps that we've done tonight. All right. Did anyone not get their Pokemon showing in their console? All right. We're going to do the last thing tonight, and then we're going to spend the last 15 minutes just writing notes on all of this to go through all the steps. So we've got our Pokemon down in our console. We've got all of the data here. The problem is that we want all of their names to show up. In order to get that information out of our make API call and actually showing up down in our div, we need state. So we're going to say const Pokemon and set Pokemon is equal to our use state, which is going to start as an empty array. We then set our Pokemon to our data.pokemon. And finally, we can Pokemon.map over each, what's the singular of Pokemon? Each item.
Pokemon.
And return out a list item with the item's name inside of it. You have Pokemons? Is it? I don't know what the singular and plural is there. If I save that and I come back over to my browser, I have to specify the item.name. And I get all of my Pokemon. And yes, we should add a key to it to make React happy. And there are all of my Pokemon. Congratulations, you're a full stack developer. That's it. You're done. Now you know why full stack is such a coveted term. Now you understand why there are so many jobs available for full stack developers, because it takes a gazillion and a half steps to make the data flow from our front end to our back end to the database back to the back end back to the front end. Shannon, I'm sorry, our data set was too small for your needs.
So you should see a list of the Pokemons on the page.
Yes.
I got the list, but I don't, mine doesn't look like that. It's not like centered or anything.
Did you clear out your app.css? It doesn't, as long as you see the names, that's all that really matters.
Yeah, I mean, I cleared out the app.css. I don't know why it's
That's fine. I didn't clear mine, but if I clear my app.css, it would look just like yours. So either one is fine.
cool.
Blush.
For those of us who have like login pages, like, is this how we're gonna be storing like all the login details, username and passwords?
I've
Does that
got
make
about a 2-page message from Ryan of us going back and forth and figuring out how we're going to do the login credentials. So this is how you're going to store information in your database if a user's submitting something, like in your case, when they rate a movie an 8, that's going to get stored into the database with this whole process back and forth. Yes. The login credentials, we might be using a third party to help with that, because login is complicated and we need encryption and server side and a bunch of stuff there. So it is possible to build login using this entire flow. We probably aren't, for the sake of having something easier for you to build out, but you will be using this to store some information, whether it's a contact photo, I'm sorry, a contact form submission of like a name and an email and a message that they sent. This is how, Shannon, you're going to store your pet information, where they're going to fill out a form and hit the save button, and then that pet information is going to show up on the home page. This is how we are going to store any user interaction data that needs to show up. So, oh, go ahead, Blush.
all of it gets stored in an object, right? For example, someone filled the form, name, email.
Not quite, because we have to insert it into the database, and then when we read it out from the database, it will give us an object that we can then send to the front end.
Gotcha. And that's yet to come, right?
That is yet to come. We haven't done any inserting into the database yet.
Thank you.
Amberlynn.
Okay. I put in all of the use state stuff, but I had trouble getting back into the correct folder in
Okay.
I think the back end one.
Share your screen.
Okay. It should work after I fix this part, like put the right stuff in the terminal.
Okay, so
The main folder.
okay, so CD into your day 3, CD into the backend inside your day 3, then npx nodemon server.js. And it's mad that it doesn't have cores, so we're just gonna install that quickly. And that's probably because you weren't in the right directory when you installed it last time.
Yep.
And now, well, we're gonna delete these because they shouldn't be out here. And then we're gonna try your install again. And now we're gonna start it. Come on. Cores. Oh, we also have to pull in cores by requiring it here. Now you're good to go there. And then over in, is this your React? Nope. Where's your React?
Right behind that one that you opened down.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you pull it up.
Sure.
Your React code.
Oh, this one.
Okay. And then here, all we need to do is import your use effect and your use state and set the Pokemon to your data.pokemon. And then I think I screwed that up. Okay, and now if we go look at 3,000.
Nope.
Nope. If we go look at,
I can close that one. Hold on once.
I'll just hit yes on this and it'll pull it back up.
Okay. Okay.
Failed to fetch is going to be a CORS error. CORS relation. Oh, do you not have a Pokemon table? Yeah, that's the problem. If we run this, if we take this out, then run this, now you've got your Pokemon. So if we restart here and refresh here, wait, DB results, DB results. You got your Pokemon.
Yay. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay. Tomorrow we are going to do it all over again, and we're going to keep on doing it until you get it. And we're going to go step by step. We're going to make a to-do list app. We're going to make our to-do list app save in the database. Going to create it from scratch. We're going to make sure we understand the steps. We're going to document it all out. And then on Monday, we are going to dive into a more complicated example with getting the chat app working. And once we get the chat app working, we're going to go get the blog working. And then once we get the blog working, we're going to get portfolio working. Flush.
So like in this case, we pull the entire table using the
Yep.
SQL like select star. Like how is it managed on in like real examples? Like is there like a separate SQL file that's pulled into the server.js and that manages, or do we pull the entire tables usually and then treat it the way we treat APIs?
We're going to learn something called the object relational mapper, and that's going to let us write queries using a JavaScript object, so that we don't have to write the raw SQL. But for the next couple days, we're going to be doing it just with the SQL.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, let's just spend the last 12 minutes and make sure that this is sinking in. At any point, stop me here. We start in our backend. We import 3 packages from NPM. Then we set up Express to use JSON and allow CORS. Then we come down and we connect client to DB to Postgres DB. Then we make an endpoint that runs DB query and sends the results back to the front end. Then we forget what number we're on, number 7, listen for incoming requests to port 3001. Just for clarity, I am going to comment out all of our animals stuff. So the only thing that we have is our Pokemon code. Take a minute, read through all of this and see, do you have any questions about this general flow? We good? Okay. We then start our terminal with npx nodemon server.js. And once we get it started, we go back over to our app.js. We import our use state, and then we say, where do we end at? Number 7. So number 8, set up state to store data. Number 9, use effect to make API call only when the component loads. Then number 10, fetch Pokemon data from backend. We then pause. We don't do any of this stuff. At number 10, the magic happens. We come over and it says number 11, request comes in from front end. We then run the database query. Then we send the information back to the database, to the front end in the response. This response, this res, is what shows up in our front end right here. I'm actually going to change this. That might make it a little bit more clear. Now we get our data in the back. We get our data back. We, number 11, parse it and set it into state. Then once we set it into state, we, number 12, map over each item in the state from the API call that's running a SQL statement. Plus, I'll answer that in 1 second. And then number 13, make each item name show up in an LI. Palash, DB result is not a standard. .rows is, because .rows is what the PG client is returning the data in. And it's also returning information like what columns are in that query and how long did it take to run and all of that kind of stuff. So .rows is a requirement. That's the key that they're putting the results in. So we have to use those .rows, but we can call DB result anything that we want. Okay, there are 6 minutes left. Read through my code on the live share. I'm going to post this up to my to GitHub right now. No, I'm not. I have to configure something before I post that up to GitHub. That code will be up later tonight. For now, I know this is a lot. It was a ton of steps. Take a step back and pat yourselves on the back. You just did a full stack data flow. You've got data requested on the front end, flowing through to the back end, from the back end to the database. The database is sending the results back to the back end. The back end is making that show up on the front end. That feels like a shitload of steps, but that is how every modern web app is storing your data that you have used. This will become more familiar. We will see how we can add things to the database. We'll find ways to make our SQL more efficient. We will get more practice with this. This is project 1. I think we do 5 projects altogether. So you get a little bit more of this, but hopefully you're getting maybe not the full light bulb moment, but a little flicker as, oh, you could do this in my capstone. Jen.
Are we still supposed to be getting uncaught runtime errors in the localhost 3000?
No.
Okay. Yeah,
Kenny, do you want to elaborate on crazy?
Like the amount, I think just because I have so many windows and stuff open. I mean, luckily I have 3 monitors, including my laptop, but I don't know, it's still a lot though.
If you think this is bad, up until cohort 3, we didn't give you guys second monitors. We made everyone do this on one 13-inch laptop monitor. Jen, you want to share screen? Refresh your React app. Did that make it go away?
Mm-mm.
Boo. All right. Request. Here. Cores. Failed to fetch. Pokemon. Oh, stop this. Restart this. Where's your, what happened to your server.listen? Did I comment that out on mine? No. It's not listening, Jen.
Oh, that's why. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. No plosh. We do not allow re-enrollment in the program.
But isn't Eva like from a previous cohort too?
Yes, but she did not get another laptop out of the deal.
Oh, that's sad.
Sure quota.
So I just had 2 questions.
Yes.
Can you briefly explain when we do the DB, like what is that doing again with the client DB?
Yeah, so we can't just start writing queries and getting results. We have to connect to the database and like configure the connection. So this is opening the connection to the database when our server starts. And now that the connection is open, we're able to use that client that we just connected to be able to run our queries.
Okay, and like the DB results and client are like, do we have to use those names, or could we, like, is this one of the things we can?
Nope, you can change it up. You could call this DB and DB and call this DB. And then you could call this like data and data. And that would also work.
All right, thank you.
Other questions?
I have a question about my capstone real quick.
Shoot.
The where I'm going to be storing all the information, is it going to look the same for photos as well, or is that what's that going to look like, Max?
All right, have a good night, everyone. Goodbye.
You're the one that was like, this is such a good idea. What am I doing?
So files are really complicated, full stack, as if this wasn't hard enough. We also have to add in a layer of complexity called the cloud. And it turns out that the cloud really likes text data. It really does not like image data. So I have in my 10 years of professional development, never found an easy way to deal with file uploads. And the last time it took me 3 full days to do it. And that's me working an 8-hour workday to try and get the file uploads to work. So we're going to pump the brakes on that idea for a little bit. And I'm going to try to find a way to make it work in a way that you guys can understand. And hopefully I can cover in like an hour in class instead of the 3 days it took me last time to do it on my own. So hopefully I will have a better answer for you in about 2 weeks. It's not impossible to do. It just takes a long time to get file uploads to work. But tomorrow, let me preface all of that by saying tomorrow we're going to see how we can do all the create, update, delete operations in our to-do list app. We're going to do that in React. We're going to kind of see that. We're going to bring that project back. We're going to get data flowing through the database, and then we'll move on to the chat app. The chat app is going to have all of those operations as well. We're going to see that data kind of flowing, being able to type something in, have it saved somewhere, and then we'll work our way up to the file.
I don't know how you feel about you anymore, Max.
Wow, he's a really good developer, but he can't teach for shit.
Thank you.
Yeah, we will tackle file uploads. It's just something that I avoid like the plague. All right, are we good? Last call for questions. I think I've fried 100% of your brains. Come on back tomorrow. We'll get more practice with it. Remember, this is what it felt like on week 2 of the program, when we were creating files, when you all hated the Mac, when you couldn't manage your Windows. It does get better. I promise you, it gets better.
We believe you.
We'll see you all
We trust
tomorrow.
in the process.
Trust in the process, exactly. See you guys.